My daughter screamed the instant she saw me. It was not the frightened cry of a child in pain, or the relieved sob of a little girl finally seeing her mother after 8 months apart. It was a scream of pure terror. "No! Don't let her touch me!" Lily cried, scrambling backward across the hospital bed, even though IV lines were taped to her tiny arms. "Please don't let her hurt me!" Every nurse in the pediatric ICU turned toward us. My boots stopped in the middle of the floor. For one stunned second, I thought she did not recognize me. Then I understood something far worse. She knew exactly who I was, and somehow, while I had been gone, someone had taught my 7-year-old daughter to be afraid of me. A nurse stepped between us, more from instinct than accusation. I raised both hands immediately. "It's okay," I whispered, though my own voice barely worked. "I'm her mother." The word sounded strange in my mouth. Her mother. After 8 months on a classified overseas deployment, the title suddenly felt like something I had failed to earn. Lily buried her face in her pillow and cried harder. Behind me, the automatic doors opened. "Lieutenant Colonel Harper." I turned. A gray-haired surgeon stood in the hallway, and his expression told me everything before he spoke. "We should talk." 20 minutes earlier, I had stepped off a military transport at Fort Liberty after the longest deployment of my career. 2 days before, the American Red Cross had sent an emergency message: "Daughter hospitalized. Condition stable. Immediate return authorized." No details, only enough to make my heart pound through every flight home. On the drive to Duke University Hospital, I imagined a playground injury, appendicitis, or a car accident. I had helped soldiers survive life-changing moments and believed I could face whatever waited there. I was wrong. The surgeon led me into a consultation room and closed the door. "I'm Dr. Michael Bennett. I've been treating your daughter since Sunday." I could not sit down. "Is she going to live?" "Yes." My knees nearly gave out, but every parent knows what follows that word. "Yes, but." Dr. Bennett opened Lily's chart and slid several X-rays across the table. "I need you to look at these." I stared at images I did not understand. He pointed carefully. "This fracture is recent. This one is several weeks old. This one had already begun healing." He continued until the pictures blurred in front of me. "There are multiple fractures in different stages of healing," he said softly. "I don't understand." He lowered his voice. "Your daughter was hurt more than once." The room went perfectly silent. "No, I'm very sorry. No." He did not argue. He opened another folder instead. Inside were photographs of bruises and burn marks, medical notes, measurements, and carefully documented evidence. Every page felt like another blade being pushed into me. "There are indications of repeated physical abuse over several months." I stared at a photograph of Lily's wrist. It looked impossibly small. I remembered holding that same hand while teaching her to cross the street. Now it was covered in bruises. "I was deployed," I whispered. "I know. I wasn't here. I know. I should have been." The kindness in his voice made it hurt more. He allowed the silence to settle before speaking again. "Lieutenant Colonel children often protect the people they love." "What do you mean?" When Lily first arrived, she insisted she had fallen. Then she changed her story. My stomach tightened. "What did she say?" "She said everything happened because she was bad." I closed my eyes. Somewhere inside me, something broke. A 7-year-old should never believe she deserves pain. After several minutes, Dr. Bennett asked whether there was anyone he should call. "What about your husband?" he asked, when I said no. "My husband brought her here." "Yes. When?" "Sunday night." It was Wednesday. Daniel had known for 3 days. For 3 days, my daughter had been in intensive care, and no one had told me more than a single emergency message. I thanked the surgeon, barely remembering it, and returned to the ICU. Lily was asleep. Through the glass, I saw bruises beneath her gown as machines beeped around her. Beside her pillow lay the stuffed rabbit I had mailed from Germany 6 months earlier. Tears rose, but I swallowed them. Lily needed a mother, not another frightened child. I turned toward the waiting room. I smelled coffee before I heard the voices. Then I saw them, my husband Daniel and his mother, Gloria. Daniel lounged with one ankle across his knee while Gloria stirred her coffee and laughed. They looked as if they were waiting for a delayed flight, not for news about a child in intensive care. They did not notice me. "Hospital coffee isn't as terrible as people say," Gloria said. "Still better than army coffee," Daniel replied. They laughed. My hands curled into fists. Finally, Daniel looked up. "Oh, that was all? Not, 'Thank God you're here,' not, 'She needs you,' just, 'Oh.'" He stood slowly. "You made good time." I searched his face for panic, grief, guilt, anything. I found nothing. "What happened to our daughter?" He glanced toward his mother before answering. "She had some accidents." Accidents? Kids fall. Before I could respond, someone touched my elbow. A detective in a plain navy suit motioned toward the hallway. "I'm Detective Ethan Morales." We moved several feet away. He spoke so quietly I almost could not hear him. "It's Lieutenant Colonel Harper." He nodded respectfully. "Lieutenant Colonel. Before this goes any further, you need to understand something." "What?" His eyes shifted briefly toward Daniel and Gloria. "They have people in high places." "What does that mean?" "This family knows judges, politicians, and business owners. Witnesses have already started changing their statements." Something cold settled inside me. "So no one plans to do anything?" "I'm telling you, the case is going to be very difficult. Very difficult." Those words followed me as I looked through the ICU window. Lily slept under warm blankets, surrounded by machines. She had trusted the people who were supposed to protect her, and they had broken her. I placed one hand against the glass. In that moment, I stopped being only a frightened mother. I became the most dangerous witness they had never expected. I did not sleep that night. Whenever Lily drifted deeper, she whimpered, whispered words I could not understand, or cried without opening her eyes. Twice, she begged someone to stop. The second time, she reached for my hand so suddenly that I almost missed it. Her fingers closed around mine. "Mom," she breathed. "I'm here, sweetheart." She did not open her eyes. "You came back." I promised I would. She squeezed my hand and fell asleep again. I lowered my head onto the edge of her mattress. That was the first time I cried silently, letting the tears soak into the blanket where she could not see them. By sunrise, I had made one decision. I was not leaving that hospital until I understood everything. The next morning, Dr. Bennett introduced me to the pediatric trauma psychologist assigned to Lily's case. Dr. Melissa Grant had kind eyes that were both gentle and determined. "We don't force children to talk," she explained, as we walked to a small family consultation room. "We let them tell us when they're ready." "Has she said anything?" "A little. Nothing that qualifies as a formal statement, but enough to concern us." "Tell me." Dr. Grant opened a notebook. "Lily believes she caused all of this." The words struck harder than any punch I had ever taken. "Children often blame themselves," I said. "I know, but I don't think you understand the full situation." She slid over Lily's crayon drawing, a little girl standing alone, while a man and woman stood together. Beneath them, in uneven handwriting, Lily had written, "Mom loves the Army more than me. She believes you chose your job instead of her," Dr. Grant said. "I never told her that." "I know. Someone else has been telling her. Every deployment, every birthday I had missed, every school play I had watched through a grainy video call came back to me. I had believed Lily understood why I served. While I was gone, someone had been rewriting every memory." Later that afternoon, a nurse smiled when she saw Lily watching cartoons. "She seems calmer today." "Because I'm here." "I think so." The nurse hesitated and lowered her voice. "Yesterday, she asked whether you would be angry if she talked." My heart stopped. What exactly did she say? "She said, 'Mom gets mad when I tell.' I have never laid a hand on my daughter." "I didn't think you had." "Then why would she say that?" The nurse glanced toward the hallway. I don't think those were originally her words. That sentence echoed through my mind all day. Someone had planted those words and repeated them until Lily believed they belonged to her. 3 days later, Dr. Grant asked Lily whether she wanted to speak with me alone. Lily nodded, and the psychologist left the room. For several minutes, neither of us said anything. Lily kept rubbing the corner of her blanket between her fingers. I waited. "Are you really staying?" she finally whispered. "As long as you need me." "You won't go back?" "I will always come back." Her eyes looked far older than 7. "Grandma said you only come home when people make you." My chest tightened. What else did Grandma say Lily was? Silent for a long time. She said soldiers don't love little girls. I reached for her hand. This time she did not pull away. "Did you believe her?" "I tried not to. But Daddy said the army needed you more." I closed my eyes for 1 second. Daniel was the man who had kissed me goodbye before every deployment and promised Lily that Mommy was helping protect other families. Had he truly spent months undoing everything we had told her? "I was good," Lily said. "I know. I cleaned my room. I know. I didn't complain." "I know, sweetheart." Her lips trembled. "Then why was everyone still mad at me?" My heart broke piece by piece. No one should ever have been mad at you. "But Grandma said—" "I know what Grandma said. She was wrong." I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. For the first time since I returned, Lily leaned toward me just enough to rest her head against my shoulder. She cried quietly. "Did I make you come home?" I wrapped my arms around her, careful not to press against the healing injuries beneath her gown. "No, I came home because I love you. I missed you every day," she whispered into my shoulder. That night I understood this had never been only physical abuse. Someone had spent months teaching my daughter to doubt her own mother. The bruises might heal. The lies could take years. The following afternoon, I asked Detective Morales for every report connected to Lily's case. "Some records are missing," he admitted. Missing? They were never uploaded. "What about school incident reports?" "We're trying to locate them." "Previous emergency room visits." He rubs the back of his neck. "Some files appear incomplete." Everything was incomplete. Every record had gaps, and there were too many gaps to be accidental. That evening, while walking through the pediatric wing, I met Lily's second-grade teacher. Mrs. Elaine Carter froze when she recognized me from school photographs. "I've been praying for your little girl," she said. "Thank you." She hesitated. There were times when I thought something wasn't right. Lily came to school in long sleeves, even when it was 90 degrees. What did she say that Grandma said sunshine caused bruises? Mrs. Carter looked ashamed. I should have asked more questions. The people responsible wanted everyone to stop asking questions. She nodded slowly. "There was something else. Whenever I suggested calling you, your husband said military communications were classified, and you couldn't be disturbed." I nearly laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. Daniel knew exactly how to reach me through official channels. He had done it before. Unless he had not wanted me to know. That night, I covered the small hospital table with every document I could obtain. Medical charts, school attendance records, prescriptions, insurance claims, and notes. Each page contained part of the story, but the pieces did not fit. Someone had been cleaning up behind the truth. My phone rang while I stared at the paperwork. The number was unfamiliar. "Lieutenant Colonel Harper?" "Yes, my name is Frank Donnelly. I spent 28 years investigating crimes for the Army before I retired." "How did you get my number?" "I heard what happened to your daughter." He paused. "I think someone underestimated how many old investigators still believe in doing the right thing." I sat straighter. "I'll be in the hospital cafeteria in 20 minutes, he said. "If you don't want my help, don't come." Then he hung up. I looked through the ICU window before going downstairs. Lily was sleeping with the stuffed rabbit clutched against her chest. A nurse promised to call if anything changed. The cafeteria was almost empty. Frank stood when I approached. He looked to be in his early 70s, broad-shouldered despite his age, wearing jeans, work boots, and a faded Army veteran cap. He was not trying to impress anyone. "Lieutenant Colonel Harper. Mr. Donnelly?" "Frank." We sat and he slid a thick manila folder across the table. "I've already done some homework." "How?" He smiled faintly. "When you spend nearly 30 years investigating people, you never really stop." The folder contained public records, property documents, business registrations, campaign donations, and family connections. Every page led back to Daniel's family. Frank tapped the first page. "Your father-in-law died 6 years ago, but he spent 20 years as a county commissioner." "Yes, the family still has influence. Daniel's cousin is an assistant district attorney. His uncle owns one of the county's largest construction companies. A close family friend sits on the hospital foundation board." So Detective Morales wasn't exaggerating. No, but influence is not immunity. "What do you mean?" "People like this become lazy. They assume no one will challenge them. That is when they make mistakes." For the first time since coming home, I felt something besides grief. Hope. Not much, but enough. Frank looked directly at me. "I read every public incident report involving Lily. There were 2. There should have been 6. But I spoke to someone who worked at an urgent care clinic. They remembered treating a broken wrist last winter." I searched my memory. "Daniel told me she sprained it falling off a swing." "It wasn't a sprain." Frank pulled out another document. "Hairline fracture." "Why wasn't it reported?" "It was." He pointed to an empty section where supporting documents should have been. Then someone requested the record and it disappeared. "You think someone destroyed medical records?" "I think someone tried." "Tried, not succeeded. Most people erase the obvious files," Frank said. "They forget backups." He had already begun requesting archived insurance billing records. Insurance companies kept diagnosis codes, X-ray charges, and payment histories, even when a clinic misplaced a chart. Some evidence could not simply vanish. He handed me another paper. "This emergency room visit was 4 months ago. I never knew about it. I assumed you didn't." The diagnosis read, "Suspected rib injury. Released to parent. No further investigation documented." "She was hurt while I was in Poland." Frank nodded. "Your deployment schedule helps establish the timeline. Every injury occurred while you were outside the United States. No one can claim you caused them." For months, I had blamed myself for being gone. Now, my orders were evidence. The realization felt cruel. My absence protected my innocence, but it had not protected Lily. The next morning, Detective Morales called. "I have an update. The district attorney declined immediate charges." "What reason did they give?" "Insufficient evidence." Despite the fractures, burns, bruises, and missing records, they still wanted more. After the call, I returned to Lily's room. She was sitting up for the first time, and some color had returned to her face. "Mom?" "Yeah." "Can you brush my hair?" It was such an ordinary request that I nearly cried. I found a small pink brush in her overnight bag and worked carefully through every tangled strand. "My hair always hurts," she said. "I know. Grandma said I cried too much." "You can cry whenever you need to." She watched me in the mirror beside her bed. "Really? Especially with me." She smiled. It lasted only 2 seconds, but it was the first real smile I had seen since returning. That afternoon, Frank showed me a spreadsheet linking dates, medical visits, absences, phone records, and my orders. A red line marked my 8-month deployment. Every injury, unexplained absence, emergency visit, and canceled parent conference fell inside it. "Pattern solve cases," Frank said. "This wasn't random. No, it was systematic. Whoever did it had time access and confidence that no one would notice." Exactly. That evening, Dr. Bennett came in with new scan results. "The surgery went well, but Lily will need physical therapy." "Whatever she needs." He hesitated. "One fracture bothered our radiologist. It healed incorrectly." "What does that mean?" "Treatment was delayed for several weeks." I closed my eyes. Someone had watched my child live with a broken bone and done nothing. I finally understood the haunted expression Dr. Bennett had worn when we first met. He had not simply seen injuries, he had seen cruelty. That night, Daniel appeared outside Lily's room. "You've been talking to investigators," he said. "Yes. You need to stop. This is getting out of control. Our daughter has broken bones. They're making assumptions. Did you know about the fractures? They were accidents. 6 accidents. Kids get hurt." I studied the man I had been married to for 14 years. He still expected me to believe him. "I hired a lawyer," he said. "For what?" "In case this becomes a custody issue." Lily was still in intensive care, and he was already preparing for court. "I haven't even started fighting," I told him. He smirked. "You don't have much." I could have told him about the insurance records, the timeline, and Frank. Instead, I smiled. "No, you just don't know what I have." Daniel walked away, convinced I was bluffing. He never noticed Frank standing around the corner. When the elevator doors closed, Frank handed me a small flash drive. "I got the archived hospital server running. Did you find something?" He smiled for the first time. They missed one file. Sometimes justice does not begin with a confession. Sometimes it begins because someone forgets to delete one piece of evidence. I did not open the flash drive. Years in military intelligence had taught me never to rush toward evidence. Preserve it, document it, then let it speak. The next morning, Frank and I drove to a private forensic laboratory in Raleigh. The technicians documented every step, copied the drive using proper forensic procedures, and preserved each timestamp. No one would be able to claim the files had been altered. The examiner connected the drive to an isolated computer. Folders appeared on the screen: hospital server backup, emergency department radiology, nursing notes, and deleted file auto-recovery. One recovered file carried Lily's medical record number and a date from nearly 5 months earlier. The examiner opened it. The room went silent. The report described a suspected rib fracture. The attending physician had written that the injury pattern was inconsistent with the reported bicycle fall. The next section recommended immediate notification to Child Protective Services. The final line read, "Status report pending supervisor review." There was no follow-up, no CPS notification, no investigation, and no explanation. "This note should not have disappeared," the examiner said. "No," Frank replied, "it shouldn't have." For the first time, I was not looking at suspicion. I was looking at proof. It did not yet prove who had hurt Lily, but it proved that someone had tried to prevent the system from protecting her. Detective Morales arrived at the lab an hour later. His expression changed when he read the recovered report. "I've never seen this." "You weren't supposed to," Frank said. Morales looked at me. "I owe you an apology. I kept saying the evidence wasn't there. It was. Someone buried it." That afternoon, official copies went to the district attorney's office. By evening, the case had been reassigned under independent oversight requested by the state attorney general. "Someone higher up saw the recovered records," Morales explained. Frank only shrugged. Truth has a funny way of climbing. While the investigation changed, Lily continued healing physically. Emotionally, the road was harder. One afternoon, she watched me reading beside her bed. "Mom?" "Yes?" "Can I tell you something?" "You can tell me anything." She looked toward the closed door. "As long as Grandma can't hear." "Grandma isn't here." Lily nodded slowly. "She used to count." "Count what?" "The bruises." Every muscle in my body froze. "If there weren't too many," she said, "Daddy wouldn't notice." Lily continued. Her voice was flat, as though she were repeating instructions. "If I cried," she said, "crying made everything take longer." Children do not calmly invent details like that. Lily reached for her stuffed rabbit. "Mom, was I bad?" I took both her hands. "Listen to me. You were never bad." "But Grandma said—" "I don't care what Grandma said. You deserved hugs, bedtime stories, and safety. You deserved your mother." Tears ran down her cheeks. "Then why didn't anybody help me?" I could not answer. because I had asked myself the same question every hour since coming home. 3 days later, the forensic pediatric radiologist completed a review of every X-ray Lily had ever received. Doctors, investigators, and prosecutors gathered in a conference room while he projected the images onto a screen. This injury is approximately 6 months old. This one, 5 months. This one, 3 months. This one, about 7 weeks. Each fracture carried its own timeline, and none matched Daniel's explanations. With reasonable medical certainty, the radiologist said these injuries occurred over an extended period. They were not isolated accidents. Could a parent reasonably fail to notice? A prosecutor asked. No. Would the child have experienced significant pain? Yes. Could these injuries result from normal childhood play? No. Medical science removed what influence and excuses had tried to preserve doubt. That afternoon, Daniel's attorney requested a meeting. We sat in a hospital conference room. Daniel looked irritated, and his lawyer wore a practiced smile. We believe this situation has become unnecessarily emotional, the lawyer began. My daughter had spent days in intensive care, and he called my reaction unnecessarily emotional. My client remains committed to co-parenting. I looked at Daniel. Since when? Neither answered. The attorney slid a temporary custody agreement across the table. I did not touch it. Lily is still hospitalized. Exactly. My client believes stability is important. I looked at Daniel. Did you know she asked whether she deserved to be hurt? His eyes shifted away. This meeting isn't about, his attorney started. It is now. Daniel finally said, You don't understand everything. Then explain it. He could not. There was no explanation, only excuses. That evening, Frank called. I found the babysitter who quit last year. Will she talk? I think so. The next morning, we met Emily Parker at a quiet coffee shop outside Fayetteville. She was not yet 30 and looked terrified. She apologized before she sat down. I should have called someone. I kept telling myself I might be overreacting. Frank placed a recorder on the table. Start wherever you're comfortable. Emily took a breath. I saw your mother-in-law push Lily. The coffee shop seemed to go silent. How many times? I asked. More than once. Did Daniel know? Emily hesitated. I told him. What did he say? Tears filled her eyes. He said children exaggerate. Then he told me not to interfere with family matters. I quit the next day. I reached across the table and touched her arm. I should have come sooner, she whispered. Maybe, but you're here now. Outside, rain began to fall. For months, Lily had carried the truth alone. Now, one witness had found the courage to carry it with her, and courage has a way of becoming contagious. The courtroom was silent. Lily would not testify unless absolutely necessary. Dr. Grant and the judge agreed that direct examination would harm her. She waited behind the courtroom with a victim advocate coloring. Through the family room window, she gave me a small, real smile. After everything she had endured, it felt like sunlight. All rise. Judge Rebecca Lawson opened the hearing. Because of the recovered evidence, the stalled local case was now under state oversight. There were no cameras or reporters, only lawyers, investigators, experts, and the people whose choices had brought us there. Daniel sat at the opposite table in an expensive, perfectly pressed suit. His confidence was less polished. Gloria sat beside him, no longer smiling. She kept looking toward the gallery, as though she expected familiar faces to rescue her. None appeared. One recovered report had changed everything. Dr. Michael Bennett testified first. Calmly, he described Lily's condition when she arrived at Duke University Hospital. Fractures, burns, bruising, dehydration, and injuries in different stages of healing. He did not exaggerate, because the facts did not need help. Were these injuries consistent with one accidental event? The prosecutor asked. No. Why? They occurred over multiple periods. He showed enlarged images to the court, identifying a recent fracture, another already healing, and an older injury several months old. Daniel's attorney tried to suggest that active children fall, climb, and suffer injuries. Dr. Bennett agreed. then answered with quiet precision. Active children do not repeatedly suffer fractures in different stages of healing, while also presenting with patterned bruising and untreated injuries. The attorney had no further questions. The forensic pediatric radiologist followed. For nearly an hour, he explained how each bone had healed and estimated the age of every fracture. Every date matched the period when I had been thousands of miles away. Could Lieutenant Colonel Harper have caused any of these injuries? No. How certain are you? Medically, completely. I had never doubted my innocence, but hearing those words released some of the guilt I had carried since the moment I saw Lily in that bed. Detective Morales took the stand next and admitted that he had made mistakes. He had trusted incomplete reports and assumed evidence did not exist. The recovered hospital backup proved him wrong. When the deleted report appeared on the courtroom monitors, he said it would have changed his investigation immediately. Emily Parker was the witness who struggled most. Visibly shaking, she testified that she had seen Gloria shove Lily into a doorframe more than once. She had warned Daniel that Lily kept getting hurt. Daniel told her children bruised easily and ordered her not to interfere in family matters. The defense attacked her delay in coming forward. Your memory could be mistaken, the attorney suggested. Emily shook her head. I remember because I still have nightmares. Then Daniel chose to testify. I think he believed he could still talk his way out of everything. I love my daughter, he said. The prosecutor placed the photographs and records before him one by one. When had he noticed this bruise? He could not remember. What about this fracture? He did not know. This burn? He claimed he had not been there. Then she showed that he had signed discharge papers, excused Lily's school absences, and given investigators different explanations involving a bicycle, playground equipment, and a staircase. You have described 6 separate accidents, she said. Can you explain why none of them happened? Daniel sat in silence until his attorney ended the testimony. Gloria denied everything until the prosecutor played Emily's recorded interview, and then a voicemail Gloria had accidentally left after calling the wrong number months earlier. Her own voice filled the courtroom. She cries until she learns. Gloria's face turned white. She began to cry and tried to explain, but the prosecutor stopped her. What exactly didn't you mean? When the hearing adjourned, I returned to the family room. Lily looked up from her coloring book. Is it over? The hardest part is. She wrapped her arms around my neck. I knew you'd come back. I'll always come back. For the first time in months, she believed me. Judge Lawson took the matter under advisement and spent 2 weeks reviewing medical records, photographs, forensic reports, expert testimony, and witness statements. They were the longest 2 weeks of my life. By then, Lily had been discharged. The pediatric ICU was behind us, but recovery had only begun. On our first night home, she refused to sleep in her bedroom. Can I stay with you? She asked, clutching her rabbit. Of course. She climbed into my bed and fell asleep with one hand wrapped around my wrist, as if she needed proof I would not disappear. I did not move all night. Physical therapy began 3 mornings a week. Some days Lily laughed, other days she cried, because simple exercises hurt. One afternoon she became frustrated while trying to climb a small set of therapy steps. I can't do it! I knelt beside her. Remember learning to ride your bike? You fell, but you kept standing up. What if I fall now? Then I'll be here to help you stand. She studied my face, climbed the first step, then the second. By the end of the session, the therapists were smiling, not because she had gone farther than expected, but because she finally believed she could. A week later, Judge Lawson issued her ruling. Daniel lost primary and legal custody. The court found overwhelming evidence that he had failed to protect Lily, despite repeated warnings and documented injuries. His parental rights were not immediately terminated, but any future contact required strict supervision, counseling, and complete compliance with court orders. Gloria received a permanent protective order prohibiting all contact with Lily. The district attorney announced criminal charges related to child abuse and obstruction of the investigation. Outside the courthouse, Daniel approached me. For the first time, his confidence was gone. I never wanted this. Our daughter never wanted it either. He looked down. I should have stopped my mother. I thought she would never really hurt Lily. Looking away does not make someone innocent, he nodded. I know that now. It was not forgiveness or reconciliation. It was simply the truth. And sometimes truth is the first step toward accountability. Over the next months, I made another difficult choice. After 24 years in the Army, I submitted my retirement papers. I was not bitter. The Army had given me purpose, lifelong friendships, and strength. People's choices had failed Lily. Now she needed something different. She needed me home. At my retirement ceremony at Fort Liberty, soldiers I had served beside came to support us. Frank was there. So were Detective Morales and Dr. Bennett. Afterward, Frank brought me a cup of coffee. When we met in that hospital cafeteria, he said you looked like you were carrying the weight of the world. I probably was. He nodded toward Lily, who was chasing bubbles across the lawn with other military children. Looks lighter now. I watched her laugh. It was quieter and more cautious than before, but it was real. We're still healing, I said. That's what healing looks like. Months became a year. Therapy and counseling continued. Nightmares still woke Lily sometimes. She would come into my room carrying the worn, stuffed rabbit. I'm okay, she would whisper. I just wanted to make sure you were here. I'll always be here. One spring afternoon, while we planted flowers in the backyard, she stopped digging. Were you angry when you came home? I was. Did you want to hurt them? I looked at the small purple flowers in her hand. I wanted them to face the truth. Is that the same thing? No. Hurting someone creates more hurt. What about justice? Justice protects people. She thought about that and nodded. I like justice better. So do I. Years have passed. Lily is now a confident young woman preparing for college. Every summer, she volunteers at a children's advocacy center, helping younger children feel safe during forensic interviews. Sometimes people ask how I found the strength to keep going. I did not always feel strong. Some nights, I wanted to give up. Some days, I blamed myself. Sometimes anger felt easier than hope. But real strength is not measured by revenge. It is measured by how faithfully you protect the people you love, even when the road is painfully long. Never ignore a child's fear. Never assume repeated injuries are ordinary accidents. Never believe influence or connections can place anyone above the truth. Lies may hide for a while, but they cannot hide forever. If my story reaches someone who needs it, I hope it reminds them to listen more closely, ask one more question, and speak for a child who does not yet have the words. And if stories of courage, resilience, and hope matter to you, I would be honored to have you join me again.